Hello my dear students, welcome to Bosco Campus Vision, Campus TV channel of Kottayam Don Bosco College. I am Raniyar, faculty member of PG Department of English. Today I will be dealing the paper 20th Century Malayalam Literature and English Translation, which is the core paper of Semester 3 BA English students. So this is the second lecture of the series. So in the last class we discussed a poem, a lyrical poem, Ambalamani, written by Sugathakumari. So we have gone through the English translation of the poem. The translation is made by P.P. Ravindran under the title The Temple Bell. Okay, so today let's continue the poem. Before that, I would like to remind you one thing. At the end of this lecture, a question is provided. Do it as your homework and send me back through WhatsApp. Then only you will get the attendance. Okay, students, let's continue. Before continue the poem, let's have a recap. So as I mentioned in the last class, this is one of the best examples of a lyrical poem. Through this poem, the writer Sugathakumari presents a visual explanation of what she sees really in her mind. And she leads the readers to the subtle nuances of different layers of meaning. So, because the lyrics of the poems are fine pieces. Okay, so she also presents her deep sorrow and anguish with a unique blending of poetic aesthetics and social critique. And she begins the poem by calling our attention to a dilapidated temple gopuram, and now that dilapidated temple is occupied by bats. So there hangs a temple bell. When wind blows, the bell started ringing. She's asking the question for whom that bell is ringing in this moment. So is it for the idol who turned into a rock, or is it for the bats for whom that bell is ringing? So this poem is an example of the fact that there is a loss of religious faith from the earth. So this poem is a call to restore that religious beliefs in the earth. Okay students, let's continue the poem. Okay dear students, let's continue the poem. Next stanza. The temple bell, its edges cracked, it still sings to the wind's touch. But who is there to listen now? How to hear this tingle amidst the market's din and the leader's roar in the public square? Who cares for this frail, feeble music amidst lustily lurid songs sizzling away in the movie theatres? So the poet Sugathakumari continuously asking, this temple bell is singing, it is for whom this bell is singing. The temple bell which hums songs at the touch of wind, but now it is cracked its edges, but still do not leave its cess for melody. It's still making noise. So the temple bell, even though its edges cracked, it still sings to the wind's touch. But she is asking the question, for whom? But who is there to listen now? Is there anybody to listen the sound of this bell? How to hear this tingle amidst the market's din and the leader's roar in the public square? This frail song of the bell, this frail song flutters in the midst of market's din and a leader's roar. So it can't withstand the lustily lurid songs sizzling away in movie theatres. So our world, we are all living in a busy world. So we drift from places to places. So from market to the public places where the public figures speaks. So she is telling that how to hear this tingle amidst the market's din and the leader's roar in the public square. Who cares for this frail, feeble music amidst lusty, lurid songs? So is there anybody care for these songs? It is frail song, feeble music amidst the lusty, lurid songs sizzling away in movie theatre. So this song, it is the bell is singing in a very low touch, low voice. It has frail, feeble music. So nobody cares for these songs, but still it is singing. So that is the stanza. Okay, let me moving on to the next stanza. The lights are out, exit all, exit the priest too famished, leaving the god alone in the dark, Yet why this kind from the bell? Jarring notes in the lonely dark. Perhaps it is doing its dharma, singing out songs now faded, that once it sang to glory. So, she's telling that the famished priest leaves the god in search of new green pastures. So, the idol is alone. The temple is alone. So, the famished priest leaves the god in that temple, and he was in search of new green pastures. So, again she is asking the same question, for whom it produced this jarring notes, for whom this bell is producing jarring notes, which remains unanswered, and the poet reaches the idea that perhaps it is doing its dharma, singing out songs. So, yet why this came from the bell? So, she is asking the question, why this came from the bell? Jarring notes in the lonely dark, perhaps it is doing its dharma. Maybe that bell making its dharma, singing out songs now faded, that once it sang to glory. So that bell once it sang to glory, but now nobody is there to listen to the music of this bell, but still that bell is singing. Next stanza. It sings of the spade that reached out in the dark mine where it lay asleep, of the god of fire who sanctified it in the heat of meditation, of the ancient dawn that gifted its melody, of the hand that hung up here in prayer, and then wiped the streaming tears of the lustre of primal sound echoing inside every day. So the poet Sugathakumari, she is continuing the poem. It sings of the spade that reached out in the dark mine where it lay asleep. So the faded song from the bell, it echoes the memories of the spade which brought out the bronze block of the dark mine where it lied asleep. So it may be with a spade that particular bronze ore is dug up. Okay, so she is remembering that it sings of the spade that reached out in the dark mine where it lay asleep. Okay, the faded song echoes the memories of the spade. So that song echoes the memories of the spade which brought out the bronze block of the dark mine. So maybe from the dark mine that bronze block is dig out. Okay, so at that time this bronze block may be lied asleep. So that is what the poet is telling. It sings of the spade that reached out in the dark mine where it lay asleep, of the god of fire who sanctified it. So after the digging up maybe the god of fire which sanctified that bell. Okay, in the heat of meditation, of the ancient dawn that gifted its melody, of the hand that hung it up here in prayer. Okay, so the faded song which echoes the memories of the spade which brought out this bronze block of the dark mine where it lied up asleep, of the god of the fire who sanctified it in the heat of meditation, of a remote dawn that blessed the gift of melody. Okay, so that gifted its melody, of the hand that hung it up here in prayer, and then wiped the streaming tears of the lustre of the primal sound echoing inside every day. So the bell is hearing the primal sound, maybe omkaram, like the sound omkaram sound. So of the lustre of the primal sound echoing inside every day. So the bell may be sanctified by the god of fire, and it in the heat with the heat of meditation of a remote dawn, and that bless the gift of melody and of the lustre of primal sound, that may be omkaram. So that is the stanza. I hope you understood. Next stanza. Roused is the life spirit even now to the bell's lonely tingle, the sound of the conch in the temple, the procession carrying the golden idol, 7 gold-decked elephants swaying in a row, the congregation of men around the yard, rows of lamps shone in their hearts, as figures of beauteous women ranged on the pillars, and 100 hands lifted to ring the bell, all in a chorus calling out to God. So, here the poet Sugathakumari continuously telling she realizes the life spirit which evokes at the onset of bell's lonely tingle. So still the bell is ringing. It is lonely. It is lonely in that sanctum, in that temple. So poet hears the lost reminiscence of the sound of conch in the temple. So as she stand in the premises of the temple, she can hear the lost reminiscence of the sound of conch in the temple. The visual treat of a procession carrying the golden idol, 7 gold-decked elephants swaying in a row. So the sound of the conch in the temple, the procession carrying the golden idol, 7 gold-decked elephants swaying in a row. So it is a quite common scene in the village areas, like തിരുവാഭരണ ഘോഷയാത്രകളൊക്കെ പോകുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ദേവനെ എഴുന്നള്ളിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് പോകുന്ന ആ തിരുവാഭരണ ഘോഷയാത്രകൾ. So the procession carrying the golden idol, 7 gold-decked elephants swaying in a row. 7 gold-decked elephants swaying in a row. In a row, 7 elephants are arranged. The congregation of men around the yard, rows of lamps shone in their hearts as figures of beauteous women ranged on the pillars, and 100 hands lifted to ring the bell, all in a chorus calling out to God. So the empty hands of the broken lamp holders now glitter the premises with hundreds of lamps as figures of the beauteous woman ranged on the pillars. So once during the time when devotees came to visit in the temple, at that time maybe hundreds of hands lifted to ring the bell, all in a chorus. At that time they are calling out to God. Okay, so like in Dibara, during the time of Dibaradhana, like that, all in a chorus calling out to God. But there are no takers, not a soul to listen. But what is the condition now? There is nobody, not even a soul to listen the music of that bell. So initially the bell was So initially there was a lot of people to ring the bell, but now what is the condition? The bell is alone in that yard. Moving on to the last stanza of the poem. In this long night you dare to stay alone. Here in the temple yard, melody incarnate, you who would awaken to the touch of the wind, though of faded sound and mimed at the rim. Let me for once greet you and stand before you in prayer. So, in the last stanza of the poem, through this, though there is a lonely night, the bell dares to stay alone as an incarnation of melody. So, that is a lonely night. The bell dare to stay alone in that as an incarnation of melody. In this long night, you who dare to stay alone, here in this temple yard, melody incarnate. So the temple is alone in that temple yard. You who would awaken to the touch of the wind, though of faded sound and mimed at the rim. So when wind blows, the bell started ringing. So you who would awaken to the touch of the wind, though of faded sound. So the bell started ringing. There comes a faded sound from the bell, and towards the end of the poem, that sound is inspired. That sound inspired our poet a lot, and inspired by the perseverance of the bell, the poet asked it to allow her to stand before it in the prayer. So let me for once greet you. So the poet asking to the bell, let me for once greet you and stand before you in prayer. So she asking it to allow her to stand before it in prayer. So that is the poem, The Temple Bell. Okay, now let's go through the critical analysis of the poem. So now we have completed the poem, The Temple Bell, written by B. Sugathakumari. It was originally written in Malayalam language, and the translation was made by Professor P.P. Ravindran. So this poem, it is a comment on the hypocrisy and shallowness of the contemporary world. Through this poem, the poet wants to reinstate the religious faith or the moral values that once leads the humanity. So she wants to reinstate that values. This poem has a gloomy tone. It is a melodious and gloomy tone. She wants to restore the dharma or religious belief in this hectic world where people are drifting from movie theaters and to the public place where the political leaders are roaring. So this poem makes a strong touch on the heart of the readers. Through this poem, the sensitive poetic heart making lamentation on the loss of moral values or the degradation of ethics from the life. She wants to reinstate that moral values, or she wants to reinstate the dharma. We are all living in this hectic world. It is quite natural that there is a vanishing of moral values. So in this time, it is very necessary to reinstate the moral values. So we should live with values and ethics. Okay, so she presents a lot of imageries and symbols through this poem, and right from the beginning we can see the imageries: bat-infested sanctum, then a broken bell is hanging. So bell is hanging like a Muniganya in meditation, then moss-covered pond, and ancient banyan trees. Several images are presented through this poem. So through this poem, she also called to restore the dignity of poetry. According to her, only a true poetry can enlighten us. A true poetry can invoke certain kind of change, certain kind of lightness in our mind. So as a whole, this poem is a call to the restoration of religious values or dharma or ethics in our life, and the translator Professor P.P. Ravindran could do justice so that he can translate all the emotions made by Sugathakumari through this poem. Okay, my dear students, I hope you understood various topics discussed today. Please do the homework and send me back through WhatsApp. Thank you. Have a nice time. Keep learning.